Hey guys, welcome to the show. It's your guy, The Citizen, and you are now listening to The Citizen Movement. And we've got so much stuff to talk about this week. There's been a lot going on. And for those of you who don't know, I put out a video explaining how the format and how things are going to change a little bit. There's one little tweak that I've made since. I wanted to drop like a segment every single week, like twice pardon me, I can't talk. I wanted to drop a segment a day, really 2 segments a day, every day for 5 days, and then drop a podcast at the end of the week. And now I'm thinking that might be a little bit too much to do, so I'm thinking of just doing like a weekly show where I talk about 4 or 5 different things as far as the podcast goes. And I put that on a podcast, right? And the podcast will drop probably every Monday. But I'll do segments throughout the week as news comes up. Okay, so you get your consistent 4 or 5 topics for the week on Monday. And after that, as the week and breaking news comes out or whatever, I'll cover it and I'll post it. So we have a lot to talk about today. Of course, President Biden actually doing something on student loans. I know I made a video like a year and a half ago of a rant about how Biden wasn't doing anything. And since then, he's actually done some things that I would give him credit for, ending the war in Afghanistan, obviously, giving health care to toxic burn pits victims. Recently, Jon Stewart, went on a tirade about that and got that pushed through Congress, so he deserves credit as well. Biden should be giving health care to everybody. He could do it. An emergency provision in Obamacare allows him to give health care to every single American who doesn't have it. But so he can do Medicare for all tomorrow, today, yesterday, really, if he wants. But credit to where credit's due for the toxic burn pit victims and the 9/11 victims and the veterans, giving them their health care. And, of course, like I said, student loans. So we're going to talk about the student loans a little bit later. But we're also going to talk about Donald Trump, the raid at Mar-a-Lago. The affidavit was released today, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened and some of the developments there. So we'll address that. And we're also going to talk about Liz Cheney and, her obviously hinting at running for president and all these type of things. What could be next for her? But first, I have to talk about these Republicans and what they're talking about in regards to inflation. Now, recently, of course, Biden's done a lot of good things. Student loan forgiveness. He passed the Inflation Reduction Act, but really the act has nothing to do with inflation. It just is a cover to try and so Kirsten Sinema and Manchin can be like, look, we're reducing inflation. It really has nothing to do with inflation. It's going to have a negligible effect on it. But the bill is good. The bill is good. And it does a lot of good things. And there's a lot of good provisions in it. So he's done that. The CHIPS Act. So Biden's been doing a lot of good things at the same time as Republicans are overturning Roe versus Wade and just taking us back to 1910. Basically, what's next? They're going to revoke women's rights to have credit cards and put them back in the kitchen, right? Like, that's clearly the direction we're headed in. And then we're going to start stoning gay people, apparently. That's a story we're going to get to as well a little bit later. But, let's address the Biden did the student loan cancellation. Everybody's freaking out about inflation. They're like, oh, this is going to add to inflation. This is going to destroy the country. And America's going to melt down. And Darth Vader is going to just take over the entire planet and then nuke us. Basically. They're freaking out. Their panties are in a bunch. And recently, this Republican representative went on this news show. And they asked him, I can't think of the guy's name right now. Oh, my memory is escaping me. Let's see here if we can pull it up. I found it. It's Andy Barr. So Representative Andy Barr, he went on Chuck Todd's show, Meet the Press, to talk about what Republicans have planned to address inflation, because they've been saying that Biden's making inflation worse and stuff. And to be honest, stuff like gas prices, he did do some things to bring it down a little bit, but because of the war in Ukraine and everything being one global supply chain, there's very little that Biden can actually do to reduce gas prices and inflation. I mean, he could go after the companies for price gouging and put pressure on them, but there's no real law that says that they can't price gouge, which is super crazy, right? You would think we'd have a law, to regulate things like that in times of crisis, but no, we don't, because our Congress can't do anything. Well, yeah, so he can't really do much about the gas prices and general inflation, right? But he has done some things to bring it down. Republicans are saying that student loans is going to make inflation go up to 50% or whatever, right? So anyway, Andy Barr, he went on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, and Chuck Todd's going to press him here about what can Republicans actually do to limit inflation, and what do they plan on doing. And let's watch his answer. See how he reacts.
What is your plan to deal with inflation? What is the Republican plan to deal with inflation other than not supporting Joe Biden policies? And I say that because what is the proactive agenda here?
Well, we have a positive agenda. We have a commitment to America, and we're going to get back to basics. Republicans are going to win landslide elections, not just because Joe Biden has done such a poor job and congressional Democrats have failed the American people on the economy, crime, and the border, but because we have a positive agenda to secure the border, to get back to basics, to stop the flow of drugs into our communities, to prevent people on the terror watch list from coming across the southern border, and to restore the Remain in Mexico policy that this administration just reversed, to finish border wall infrastructure and technology and research.
We have a positive agenda. Listen to what he said. Our agenda is positive, sunshine and rainbows. We are going to get back to basics. What does that even mean? Like, that's just a platitude. And then Republicans are going to win elections. Oh, really? Like Dr. Oz is beating John Fetterman? Yeah. Or how about Herschel Walker, how he's going to win his election, right? And look, there's still time. These guys may win their elections, but as of now, ain't looking too good. So, yeah. And then he's like, we're going to do border patrol. What does border patrol have to do with inflation? Like, are the Mexicans, like, and Guatemalans and other people, are they coming into our country and tripling the cost of a loaf of bread? Like, what is it? What does this have to do with inflation? And for the record, Joe Biden is doing the same border patrol policies as Donald Trump. The same exact policies. Remain in Mexico, turning back migrants without giving them due process, which are things I don't support at all. Now, I have heard that they've changed some of the Trump policies and they've gotten rid of them, some of them. But generally speaking, he's been deporting just as many people as Donald Trump has. Not as bad as Obama, who they called the deporter in chief, but nevertheless, he's been very tough on immigration. He's even been tough on asylum seekers and migrants. Okay? So, the idea that Biden's not protecting the border is ludicrous. But putting that aside, I mean, this just shows you how much this guy is in his bubble, number one, because he's basically like, we're going to make America great again. We're going to patrol the borders, and we're going to stop inflation by getting back to the basics. What's next? Oh, we're going to put God in schools. I mean, it's the same talking points Republicans have been using since I was born. Really, since before I was born. Like, since 1991. Okay? And it's like, none of this has anything to do with inflation. What does this show you? Republicans have no plan to deal with inflation. None. What they're going to do is say that inflation's the Democrats' fault. It's horrible. And then when inflation inevitably falls, like it always does, just like it did under Obama, just like when jobs when jobs rate goes up, just like it always does, just like it did under Obama. If a Republican, like let's say, God forbid, Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis, wins the 2024 election, they're going to say, oh, look what a good job we're doing. Things are going back to normal. You know, that's what politicians typically do. They don't do anything to contribute to solving the problem, but they take all the credit. But Republicans have no answer for inflation whatsoever. This should show you people like Andy Barr. They come on TV and they speak a bunch of platitudes and they say a bunch of things that people in their bubble like, and they don't do anything. And oh yeah, by the way, we might take away some of your rights, like your rights to contraception or your reproductive rights, or hey, maybe even like rights to gay marriage. This is why the Republican Party, this should be a red wave year, it's looking like not only are they not going to win the Senate, it's looking like they might not win the House either. And about 4 to 6 months ago, it was basically a shoo-in for Republicans to win the House, and they were most likely going to win the Senate as well because of the gerrymandering lines. Now, the Democrats even have a chance at maintaining their control of the House. So Biden may have a majority again. You know, and this is why these people, they're just against Democrats. They say Democrats are terrible, which they're right. Democrats are horrible. But Republicans are no better. They're worse. Okay? They say, hey, things are terrible. We're going to come in and fix them. And they come in, they don't fix anything. They cut taxes for the rich. They increase the deficit, even though they're so concerned about it. And they make things worse. Okay? That's what they do. And then, by the way, we might take away your rights and we're going to make it harder for you to vote. And then they wonder why they're not popular and nobody wants to vote for you. Nobody wants to listen to anything you have to say. They wonder why. Oh, man, these guys. So there you have it. The Republican plan to reduce inflation is to do jack shit. That's the plan. Sound like a great plan. So I wanted to bring up this story as well, because I thought this was important in light of Roe versus Wade being overturned, and now people like Clarence Thomas saying, "Well, we should look at Obergefell." Clearly, because the precedent for that is the same too. You know, and by the way, the precedent for interracial marriage is exactly the same as the precedent for gay marriage and for abortion. But he conveniently left gay marriage out, conveniently left interracial marriage out because his wife is white. So, of course, he doesn't want to review that. What a massive hypocrite. But he wants to review the right to contraception and your right to sodomy and your right to being gay, which is literally gay people's right to exist and have a marriage. Okay? So, well, let's show you how far, if you think Clarence Thomas is a radical Republican, I will show you how far Republicans in Washington, I will show you how far Republicans in Washington are willing to go in order to force their ideas down the throat of every single American that they possibly can. This story was actually brought on my radar by Kyle Kulinski from Secular Talk. Shout out to him. This article was in LGBTQ Nation, which pretty cool. Didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is. GOP candidate says it's totally just to stone gay people. Well, quote, well, does that make me a homophobe? It simply makes me a Christian. Christians believe in biblical morality, kind of by definition, or they should. What? I'm not going to lie, when I first seen this, I thought it was a joke. Okay, let's see. GOP candidate in Oklahoma is getting attention for comments he made several years ago when he justified the death penalty by stoning for gay people. When he recently was asked about it, he didn't disavow his previous comments. Scott Esk, E-S-K, what a fake last name, 56, is running in the Republican primary runoff election tomorrow for the seat in the state house. So this is a local election. And local media is bringing up some extreme comments he made in the past. He's not handling them well. In 2013, Esk was commenting on a Facebook conversation about the Pope saying he couldn't judge gay people. Based Pope. Esk posted some Bible quotations, including excuse me, including the part of Romans 1 where the Bible says that a long list of people who sinned are, quote, worthy of death. It's like, what does that even mean? We all sin. So, right? Isn't the wages of sin death, like according to your own religion? So why are you singling out gay people as a sin? Even if you believe it's a sin, I'm presupposing you believe that, which I do not subscribe to that ideology. But let's continue. Another person asked him, so just to be clear, you think, this is recent. So just to be clear, you think we should execute homosexuals, quote, in parentheses, presumably by stoning. I don't know if they said that, but X responded, I think we would be totally in the right if we do it. Ignoring as a nation things that are worthy of death is very remiss. Oh my God. He really said this. A year later, they asked him about it again. And he said, it was totally just to kill gay people. Totally just. Quote, totally just. What I will tell you now is that what was done in the Old Testament under the law that came directly from God, and at that time, it was totally just. It came directly from God. After those comments, he put out a long video where he claimed that he, quote, sets the record straight. In those videos, he claimed compassion on anybody in the grips of the insidious addiction, such as homosexuality. What? As a Christian, I should be in the position to say that this is sin or this is good. If we don't make that distinction, we're not going to help people. Or help them by throwing stones at their body until they die. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so this guy is insane. If he thinks that it is justified to give people the death penalty for being gay, that's what they do in countries like Saudi Arabia. Okay, executing people in the public square, although I think now it's being decriminalized a little bit more. But historically, chopping people's heads off for being gay or for being witches or sorcerers or, using drugs. This is what the Republican Party has become. An extreme group of people who literally think it's okay to kill anybody who does not share their ideology. Donald Trump said the other day, I think we should start executing drug dealers because drug dealers kill 1 in every 300 people that they serve drugs to. That is totally made up number, by the way, too. Each drug dealer is responsible for 300 deaths or something, he said. Like, that's totally made up. But, yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, dude, this guy wants to execute gay people. Being gay is not an addiction. It's not a sin. It simply is a fact of life. Okay? Some people, some men like women, and some men like dick. Some women, they like to sleep with men, and some women like to get it on with females, okay? That's how it is. It's been like this for thousands of years. And by the way, if you look at Africa and even certain parts of other societies, being gay and being homosexual and even being trans was part of people's religions. Okay? Native Americans had a bunch of different genders and a bunch of different gender roles before the Europeans came over and colonized them and basically converted them, often by force, to Christianity. So, what? This stuff has been around for thousands of years, and the fact that these people say, oh, well, it's in the Bible to stone gay people, so I guess we gotta stone them. I have compassion because they're addicted, but we still stone them. Really? That's what okay. If I told you the Bible says thou shalt slit your throat and jump off a bridge, would you do it? Huh? This is one of the main problems I have with religion, man. People just blindly following this stuff like it's gospel, no pun intended. Dude, these books were written by people. Some of this stuff is good. Some of it's not good. Some of it's terrible. Some of it's flawed. Okay? And by the way, the idea that somebody should be stoned for being gay goes deeply against, because it's what the Bible says, goes deeply against the conservative position on free speech, free expression, and live and let live. Because traditionally conservatives are like, hey, everybody should be able to do what they want as long as they're not hurting anybody else. That's a conservative position, right? I would argue that it's also a left-wing position, but it's a position that conservatives have been holding up, the whole don't tread on me thing. Now, these people not only want to tread on the people, they want to stone them. And this guy, he won't. And the thing that's crazy is most people, like even Marjorie Taylor Greene, when they found out that she was like peddling Pizzagate, she kind of backed away from it and said, hey, I just that. And that's Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's like talking about Jewish space lasers. Like even she was backing away from some of her old tweets and kind of issuing like half-ass apologies and stuff. The fact that this guy is doubling down on the idea that you should stone someone for who they're sexually attracted to, which is something that you cannot control, is just crazy. So look, guys, for the love of God, if you live in this man's district, I believe he's a senator from, trying to remember what state it is. It's not Kentucky, the guy in the other segment, who was talking about inflation was from Kentucky. He's from Oklahoma. For the love of God, if you live in this guy's district in Oklahoma, Scott-esque, please vote for his opponent. Look, I don't care if his opponent is like the devil himself. Like anything's better than this guy. Please vote for the opponent, because if he had it his way, they'd be executing the gay people, killing the gays by sticks and stones. So please get this crazy person, psycho person out of contention for office, and then afterward, please 302 him to a psych ward, because this shit is crazy. Okay, so we are going to move on, and let's talk about Liz Cheney. And this news is actually a little bit older. That she said she might run for president. I apologize, guys. I was going for 9 months, so my first video is going to be a little bit behind. But there's an article from, it's an opinion piece in NBC. It's called Think. Is that like a new segment of NBC's writing? Think? I don't know. It says here, opinion piece, politics and policy. Liz Cheney won't run as an independent for president because she's too smart. Interesting. Cheney will run as a Republican, not because it's a path to victory for her. Imagine thinking that there's any path to victory for Liz Cheney to be the president. She's so unappealing. She's a war criminal. She supports every single war. She's against women's rights. She's against gun control. She's pretty much against everything good. She's like Kirsten Sinema, only I'm also going to take your reproductive rights too. She's so uninspired. Imagine thinking she could win anything. There's no path to victory for her. But anyway, Cheney will run as a Republican, not because it's a path to victory for her, but because it would be a chance to constantly remind us of Trump's dereliction. I don't know this word, but it's DERELICTION. Dereliction of duty as president. I don't know, dude. Look, I have a wide range of vocabulary. Honestly, I studied English in college briefly, and then philosophy. I've never seen this word in my life, but whatever. Cheney's path to victory, because it would be a chance to constantly remind us of how Trump messed up, basically, and didn't fulfill his duty as president. Let's continue. Third-party presidential runs are apparently all the rage. Oh, really? I'm sure they are. Earlier this month, former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang of New York, former Republican Congress David Jolly of Florida, and former Republican Governor Christy Todd Whitman of New Jersey formed the Forward Party as an alternative to the Democratic and Republican parties. Calling this party an alternative is insane, because they're basically just let's take a little bit of neoliberalism, but allow Republicans in too. And this is the party. To be fair, they do represent, ranked choice voting is good, but honestly, a a lot of the stuff they stand for, they don't even have a platform. So I don't know why they're propping this up in mainstream media. Anyway, as alternatives to Democrat and Republican parties, Republican Representative Liz Cheney sparked a third-party presidential campaign talk after her defeat in the Wyoming primary last night. Pundits on both sides of the aisle are discussing her electoral chances, and the Republican Party is an independent. But right now, the discussion about the alternative to the two-party system is just talk. No third-party candidate will win the presidency until the state electoral system is reformed, which is exactly why Cheney likely wouldn't run as an independent. Now, look, I mean, understand this, right? Liz Cheney would probably take more votes away from Joe Biden as an independent than taking votes away from Donald Trump. So the whole idea of her playing spoiler won't work. And I'll tell you why. There was a poll that came out, and I seen it earlier on the Kyle Kalinske show. No, sorry. It might have been on, was it on Kyle Kalinski's show or was it on Crystal Kyle and Friends? Well, earlier, Kyle referenced it. Shout out to him. You should really check out his channel. Go subscribe. Trying to get him to 1 million subs. Anyway, it said Biden, Cheney, or Trump. Who would you vote for in a poll, a straw poll? When they put those three in, Trump got 45% of the vote. 43% of the vote. Biden got 38%. And I think Cheney got like 10%, 9%, 10%, something like that. But when they took him out, Biden edged out Trump by like 7 points. So, in other words, which is amazing that it's even that close after all the things Trump has done. But in other words, Liz Cheney is taking away votes from the Democrat, and she would actually probably help Donald Trump to win the election, or help, quote unquote, help, quote unquote, because let's be honest, third party candidates, unless you're Ross Perot, you're not really having that much of an effect anyway. But yeah, so she's probably not going to run as a spoiler. So what does this mean? She's probably going to run as a Republican and do a kamikaze mission, because that's really her only path at this point to stop Donald Trump. And she did say that her legacy was going to be basically stopping Donald Trump from being the president, and that they weren't going to give up fighting. And she did this goofy speech where she compared herself to Abraham Lincoln and stuff. But there you have it, guys. Liz Cheney. Apparently might be running for president as a Republican, which I don't know. I part of me is like, dang, this is kind of sad. After her getting like ousted in Wyoming, basically because she wouldn't lie about the election, right? Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not shedding any tears for Liz Cheney. I hate Liz Cheney. But I don't know, man. This is kind of sad. But at the same time, I kind of want to be like, yeah, base Liz Cheney, because if she does run against Trump in 2024 and does take away even a portion of the Republican primary vote from Trump, right? Perhaps her voters will end up not voting or going to Biden, and Biden will probably win the election. So, hey, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So probably the big story that everyone's been talking about, President Joe Biden has forgiven $10,000 of student loan debt for every borrower that makes under $125,000 a year, or $250,000 collectively for couples. And he is also forgiving up to $20,000 for people who received the Pell Grant, right? Now, most of the Pell Grant recipients, as far as I understand, are lower to middle income people who make anywhere from maybe like below the poverty line money up to like maybe 50, 60,000. So it's a wide range of people. This is going to forgive student debt for a lot of people, like 80% of borrowers. This is pretty big. Now, don't get me wrong. This is nowhere near enough, and I'm going to talk about why in a second. And I'm going to talk about why this is really the bare minimum for Joe Biden, to be honest. And but nevertheless, he did do something, which he did more than Obama did. Obama said, "Oh, we need to help these borrowers who are struggling during these unprecedented times, during this market crash, and we need to do something about student loan debt. And then proceeded to do nothing for 2 years while he had a supermajority. And then even after that, still did nothing. Could have done executive orders, did nothing, right? So Biden has done something, which makes him, dare I say it, the most progressive president on the issue of student loan debt in American history, right? Now, that's not saying much. It's a low bar, because the other bar is Obama and George W. Bush. But hey, I'll take it, right? We'll take it. And Republicans are going crazy. They're outraged. They're like, oh my God, inflation. Oh, we need to stop this, right? Oh man, this is going to mess things up for other people. We shouldn't have to pay other people's debts, right? Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene went on Twitter and actually tweeted out, hey, if someone owes a debt, they should have to pay that debt. And we shouldn't forgive any debts. And other people speak out against it. Matt Gaetz, Greg Pence, and a few others were saying similar things about we should not pay anyone's debt. And I seen this on Twitter. I can't remember what Twitter account this is on. I want to give them credit. Oh, man. If you guys know the Twitter account, please put it in the comments. But they said the Republican Party does not want to share this graphic exposing their hypocrisy. The Republican had their PPP loans forgiven to the tune as much of $3.1 million. Now, this is Republicans in Congress. Now, they have the nerve to attack students who are finally getting a bit of relief they desperately need. They're completely shameless. Now, look, these are Republican members of Congress who got PPP loans forgiven. Keep in mind, some of these people, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, was literally saying we shouldn't forgive any loans. Matt Gaetz, $476,000 in forgiven PPP loans. Marjorie Taylor Greene, $180,000. Greg Pence, $79,000, almost $80,000, $79,441. All right, and I could go on down the list. They got Vern Buchanan, on the list. $2.8 million, Republican from Florida. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. They got others here. Kevin Hern, Republican from Oklahoma, $1 million, $1,070,000. Roger Williams, Republican from Texas, $1,430,000. You can keep going down this list. This is crazy. Carol Miller, the Republican from West Virginia, got $3.1 million forgiven of PPP loan debt. 3.1. Now, am I saying that they shouldn't have got their PPP loans forgiven? I don't know. Maybe some of them shouldn't have, because a lot of them maybe didn't need the money. But look, if they needed the money to pay their employees and keep them on staff, absolutely they should get them forgiven. But the point of this is not to say oh my God, these people got their loans forgiven, $3 million. The point is to say they got $3 million forgiven, and they don't want you to have $10,000 forgiven. Insane. Absolutely insane. And they talk about inflation. No one talked about inflation when it came to PPP loans, or at least not the loans that they got forgiven, right? But that's what these Republican politicians do. They're not like your average run-of-the-mill Republican grandpa in Kansas who's legitimately concerned about the deficit. They are people who are concerned. These are Republicans who are concerned about lining their own pockets and corruption. Let me say this. Donald Trump's tax cuts for the rich, where 86% of the benefits, according to one study, went to the top 1%, increased inflation by $1.3 trillion while he was in office, and is projected to continue to increase, until the tax codes are changed. Now, obviously, Biden did do the 15% minimum tax. That's going to help out somewhat, but personal income taxes still haven't been changed due to corruption in Congress, mostly the corruption of Kyrsten Sinema, although there's a lot of other blue dog Democrats and new Democrats in Congress who quietly don't want these tax cuts to change anyway. They're just not going to say it. But look how they act when Biden finally does something good for the people. He eliminates student loan debt and his hair on fire inflation. Crazy, right? Now, this is not enough. I don't want people to take this and misconstrue this as, oh, Biden's so great, he's FDR. He's eliminated all student loan debt. No, he hasn't. And actually, there was a tweet that Biden made where he said that he was keeping his campaign promise by eliminating debt. And it was a really weaselly tweet because he didn't keep his campaign promise at all. What did Biden say on the campaign trail? He said, hey, we are going to give you $50,000 of student loan debt relief. And then after that, he's like, all right, well, maybe we'll do $20,000. All right, and now he's doing $10,000 and $20,000 for some people with means testing. Okay? And he said he was going to do it for Americans who made up to $200,000, I believe, and now it's $150,000. All right, or I think $250,000 for couples. So it's crazy, you know. Now he did help 43 borrowers with their relief plan, and also there's a provision in this too that I thought was really good, where if you make on-time payments for 10 years, then your loans are just forgiven. And before, it was 20 years. Oh, and also he's reduced how much of your income you have to pay, your monthly income, from 10% down to 5%. So he's done a lot to help. But I think it's important to keep it in perspective that it's not enough, and it's not what he said that he was going to do. Okay? Let's read the exact tweet. I'm trying to find it. Today, my administration is meeting the campaign commitment with targeted debt relief to folks from families who need it the most. If you receive the Pell Grant while you're in school and make less than $25,000 a year, you're eligible for up to $20,000 in student debt reduction. That's great, Biden, but that's not what you promised. You promised $50,000. And I think Democrats, we have to take a win where we can get it, but we also shouldn't just be like, oh, yay, Biden's awesome, he did great. Nope, we need to hold him accountable, hold his feet to the fire and say, hey, man, $10,000 is good. I'm glad you're flirting with this. Now, how about that other $40,000 that you promised? Don't let up, because this is what Republican voters do. This is what the Tea Party did. They pressured the hell out of them. They did not let up, and we shouldn't let up either. But credit to Biden for taking this step. As much of a baby step as it might be. And for all the Republicans, politicians who are like, oh man, this is unfair, loans shouldn't be forgiven, you guys can piss off, because a lot of you got your PPP loans forgiven. Oh, and another thing too, I know a lot of people are saying, I paid my loans, this isn't fair. Number one, who cares? Okay? Your great-great-great-grandparents didn't have a national highway system. Should we be like, oh, you shouldn't get a highway system either, bro, because we have to tough it out on dirt roads, you know? Or, hey, I don't know about ending slavery, man. Is that fair to all the slaves that were slaves for like 1,000 years? Should we really end slavery? Like, it's just a lazy argument. It is not intellectual. Now, look, if you want to say, hey, all the people who paid should get a refund too, okay, based. Yes, I agree, because no one should be paying student loans, at least not for a public school. At least my position on this is public college should be free. If it's taxpayer funded, it should be free at the point of service. Nobody should be paying $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year to go to Penn State or Ohio State or University of Pittsburgh. No. If they're state schools and they're funded by tax dollars, in addition to the private endowments they get, it should be free. Now, private colleges, you can make the argument, should they be covered as well, or should they not be covered? I would cover all college, but I would be willing to accept community colleges and four-year public schools as being free, and then private schools being extra, you know, similar to what the Canadians do with healthcare. How they say, hey, you know, these things are covered, but if you want this cosmetic treatment, you have to pay for that. I'm fine with that, okay? Like, I would accept that system for college education. But college education should be free. So look, if you want to give all those people who paid refunds based, they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. They just want people to continue to struggle, continue to pay. They're going to lie and say this is benefiting rich people, even though rich people don't take out student loans because they can afford to pay for college. This is mostly going to benefit middle-class people and some, quote-unquote middle-class people, average Americans, and some poor people as well. Okay? So, once again, Joe Biden's forgiving student loans. I'm sure most of you know by now. The policy is based, but it's not enough. He needs to do more. And we need to keep pressuring him to do more. And for everybody who's speaking out against it and saying, oh, these shouldn't be forgiven because people should be paying them themselves, yeah, you guys can all piss off. And let's talk about this Trump Mar-a-Lago raid situation, right? So I'm sure the whole world knows by now that Donald Trump was raided for classified documents that he said he would give to the FBI, where he was basically like, I gave you all the documents I have. I have no more documents. And he was hiding the documents the whole time. A federal judge recently ruled that the affidavit for the raid had to be released to the public. It's a redacted version. Now, what redacted means is that either information in it is classified and can't be available to the public, or they're protecting witnesses, so they're leaving names out so that we don't know how the information was obtained, so that Trump can't figure out who the rats are in his circle. And there's more than one rat. Oh, my goodness. It's crazy, right? But so a lot of the juicy stuff is left out, and I'm sure we'll find out later on as the case proceeds. But, maybe after he's found guilty, who knows? We don't know. Now, I do want to qualify this by saying he might find a way to weasel himself out of this, because even though what he's done is egregious and is probably one of the worst crimes that a president has ever committed, hey, with people who are either president or some type of political royalty in America, usually what happens is the crimes get ignored and they just are allowed to walk free. Hillary Clinton is a prime example. She committed crimes, sent classified information through a regular email. Some of that information got intercepted, and it could have potentially been a national security risk, although it appeared like the documents that got intercepted weren't a national security risk. But still, she committed a crime, and it's like, okay, the FBI is investigating her. Based. Let's see what happens. Yeah, Hillary committed crimes. Okay, based. Lock her up, right? No, we're not going to lock her up. We're not filing charges. What? So it's possible to do the same thing with Donald Trump. So don't expect him to go to jail, although I will say there's about a 60% chance that this thing actually goes to trial and something comes of it. So I'm leaning more in the direction of he might be found guilty or maybe even take some type of plea deal or something happening to him, but can't be sure. But anyway, so we got some of the details of the raid from NPR, and it says here over 185 classified documents removed by National Archives from Mar-a-Lago affidavit says 180,000 classified documents. Keep in mind, guys, some of these were nuclear. Crazy. So let's read this. It says the affidavit that the FBI used to get a warrant for searching former President Donald Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago is now public. Of course, like I said, it's redacted. A redacted version of the document was released by a federal court this afternoon. Of the 32 pages of the affidavit from the FBI, from an FBI special agent with expertise in counterintelligence and espionage investigations, nearly half were covered in thick black lines masking the information that demonstrated to a federal judge the need to search Trump's Florida property. All right, so they're, like I said, they're protecting the names of the informants that are in Trump's circle, and there's apparently not just one informant, but multiple informants. So 8 pages of exhibits and supplementary information were also released, which were not redacted. I didn't know that. So there's more information. So this is from the affidavit. It says here, probable cause exists to believe that evidence, contraband, fruits of crime, or other items illegally possessed was being improperly stored in various places at Mar-a-Lago. I think they meant were being restored. I'm not sure. So according to the affidavit, 184 classified documents, including 25 marked top secret, that's the nuclear stuff, were found among 15 boxes that the National Archives had obtained from Mar-a-Lago earlier this year. Earlier this year was like 2 weeks ago. But earlier this year, as well as other denotated labels indicating that they contained national security information, such as FISA. Some of those documents were intermixed with other files, loose and unlabeled. Oh my God. Which prompted the archives to refer the case to the Justice Department. Okay. As the department worked with Trump and his attorneys, it became concerned about the nature of other recordings of the property and that they were not adequately protected or stored. This person had a lot of typos. The Justice Department also grew concerned about misleading public statements from Trump and a former administration official about the materials that the archive had recovered, affidavit shows. So, basically, Donald Trump had been going around saying, this is totally made up. It's a hoax, fake news. I didn't steal anything. You're President Donald Trump. The only thing that was stolen was the election from me because I beat Joe Biden. And the Democrats are now trying to lock me up for stealing when they're the thieves. Basically, he's been going around doing this thing. And Merrick Garland is like, actually, no, bitch. You were committing crimes. And here's the proof that you were committing crimes. So, the affidavit has been released. It shows probable cause. Now, again, like half of it is redacted because they don't want to give up the informants that are in Trump's circle. But, and also, I'm sure they don't want to put some of the people who did the investigation's name out there as well because people have been receiving a lot of death threats. But there you have it. Donald Trump definitely was guilty, it looks like, of taking these documents. Now, it's all a matter of, do they want to charge a former president or not? But the affidavit, I don't have time to read the entire thing to you guys. It would take forever. But there's 38 pages of it. About half of it's redacted. But there's a good bit of information in here that you can read. I'll leave it in the description below for those of you guys watching on YouTube. And for those of you who are listening on Spotify or any of the podcast platforms, look up NPR, 185 classified documents removed, and the article should pop up. And it has the information that I just read to you, as well as 38 pages, of the information pertaining to the raid at Mar-a-Lago available. So, it ain't looking too good for Trump, man. It ain't looking too good for Trump. And honestly, I'm here for it. I'm here for this guy falling all the way apart and falling all the way down. And maybe this time we'll actually see his demise. I mean, it seems like Donald Trump always, there's the meme. I'd love to see old Donnie Boy wiggle his way out of this one. Oh, he got out of it? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, whatever. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but he does have a habit of getting out of these things. But between this and also being charged for conspiracy to commit election fraud or something of that nature in Georgia, and his taxes being looked into in New York and him potentially being criminally charged there, all it takes is one. All it takes is one of these things to stick for Donald Trump to go to jail and probably never run for president again. So, but there you have it, guys. All right, that's the show for today. I just had like 4 or 5 topics I wanted to talk about. This is my first time doing it in this format, so you guys will probably see this video up Monday. It may not be on Spotify and the podcast platforms yet, but I'm telling you that it will be soon. Just be patient with me. I do apologize in advance for the audio quality. Right now, I don't have a microphone or anything, a studio set up. It's just me talking into my iPhone. But a lot of people have started their channels like this, humble beginnings, right? So hopefully soon I will have a microphone available and I'll be able to present a better product to you guys. But in the meanwhile, thanks for listening to the show. You've been tuning in to the Citizen Movement with me, your host, The Citizen, and I'm signing off.